Hello. Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is the physiology of micturition. So, first of all, what is the definitions of what do you mean by the micturations? So, here we are going to the physiology of micturations. So, definition is the micturation, it is the process by which urinary bladder empties when it is filled. So that will involve the two steps where the bladder is filled progressively until the tension in the wall arises above the threshold level, and after that elicit the second step, that is the nervous reflex, or it is called the micturation reflex. And by this micturation reflex, the bladder is empty. So basically the micturation begins at the 5th month of intrauterine life with the onset of urinary secretions, and it is a purely reflex phenomenon at the age of up to the 2 to 2.5 years, and then the voluntary control is developed. So how the filling of bladder occurs? So when the urine collected in the renal pelvis, so pressure in the renal pelvis increases, that will generate the peristaltic waves, and through the peristalsis from the renal pelvis into the ureter, the flow of urine occurs at the rate of 2 to 3 centimeter per minute. So every second the pressure wave, the peristaltic wave is generated from once every second for up to the 2 to 3 minutes. And that is the normal flow when the urine is flow from the renal pelvis to the ureter. But in case of the obstructions, the peristaltic waves, the pressure is increases about 25 to 50 millimeter of Hg. So what is the anatomy of bladder? So here you can see the bladder, it is covered, or it is made up of the smooth muscles, and that is known as the detrusal muscles. So there are two ends where the ureters, body, neck, hello. So bladder, it is contained mainly the three parts: the body, neck, and the lower portions, and here is the trigone. Now the bladder is made up of the smooth muscle, that is known as the detrusal muscles, and it has a very important role in the process of micturations. And here the trigone, the triangular area, that will be, it is known as the trigone, and it is on the upper side, it is open where the urethral opening is there, and below there is a opening of the internal urethral sphincter. So here is the internal urethral sphincter, here is the external urethral sphincters, and in case of the female, this is the urogenital diaphragm. So the innervation, motor innervation, or the nerve supply of the bladder, motor supply, the parasympathetic nerve supply, it is derived from the sacral segment of the spinal cord, that is the pelvic nerve, arise from the S2, 3 and the 4 sacral segment of the spinal cord, and it has a main role to the contractions of the detrusal muscles and the emptying of the bladder. So if these fibers are inhibitory to the internal sphincter, so if they are destroyed, then normal micturition cannot be possible. So this is a diagram how the micturition process occurs, and that we will explain in the later on. The sympathetic supply, that is arise from the thoracolumbar regions where the T11 to L2 segments of the spinal cord, and these fibers are inhibited to the detrusal muscles. However, the sympathetic activity have no much more role into the process of micturations. It has increased the sympathetic discharge to the bladder. It occurs during the ejaculation. So the sympathetic process that not much more role into the micturations, but it prevents the entry of the sperm during the process of ejaculations into the urethra. Somatic motor innervations. So here the somatic nerve supplied by the pudendal nerve, that is also originate from the sacral segment of the spinal cord, S2, 3 and the 4th sacral segment of the spinal cord, and it supply the external sphincters. That is a voluntary control. Now here the internal sphincters and the external sphincters, they have both different structures anatomically. So where the internal sphincters, it is made up of the smooth muscles, where the external sphincter, it is made up of the skeletal muscles, and it is a voluntary, while the internal sphincter is the involuntary. Sensory innervations. So the sensation of the bladder distension occurs. So the sensory, so that supply is carried by the same pelvic nerve when the bladder distension occurs by the fill-up of the urine. So afferent from the detrusal stretch receptors travel to the spinal cord via pelvic nerve. From this region of the bladder, neck and the trigone, so this afferent impulses from the bladder, neck and the trigone, it is travel to the higher centers through the hypogastric plexus or via the hypogastric plexus. In the spinal cord, the fibers of awareness of the bladder distension run in the posterior column to reach the spinal pontine and the suprapontine region. So from the sacral segment, so this from the spinal cord to the above higher centers, the signals are transmitted. The sensation of the bladder pain. So the pain fibers arises by the excessive distension or the spasm of the bladder wall due to the stone, some inflammation, excessive stretching of the bladder wall due to the excessive feeling, and some malignant causes that irritate the bladder wall and that causes the bladder pain. So now these pain fibers are carried by the lateral hypothalamic tract via the pelvic nerve or the hypogastric plexus to the higher centers. And the urethral sensations. So after the fill-up of the bladder, the urethral sensation occurs, and that will be helpful for the avoiding of the urine, and that sensation is arise from the pudendal nerve via the spinal cord. So in the spinal cord, urethral sensation travels in the dorsal column and back to the pudendal nerve, and that will give the sensation of the urethra for the voiding of urine. The capacity of the bladder, the physiological capacity of urinary bladder, it is the 20 to 50 ml at birth, 200 ml up to the 1 year, and in the adult its capacity is 250 to 450 ml. And the anatomical capacity is about 700 to 800 ml. That will be causes the excessive distensions of the bladder, it may be causes the rupture. So what is the mechanism of filling of the bladder? So when the bladder is empty, there is a pressure, it is almost zero. That means that pressure of the bladder, it is equal to the intra-abdominal pressure. So when the pressure is about 20 to 50 ml, so when the urine is collected 20 to 50 ml, the pressure is arises 5 to 10 centimeter of water. Now the additional fluid or the urine is collected about 200 to 300 ml. without much rise of the pressure due to the tone of the bladder wall. When the urine collections becomes more than 300 to 400 ml, then sudden rise of the pressure. So here we can see when the bladder is empty, its pressure is equal to the intra-abdominal pressure. That means the intravesical pressure is 0. But when the fluid is collected 20 to 50 ml, then the pressure arises from the 0 to 10 centimeter of water. Access to that, when the 200 to 300 ml of the urine is collected, where the pressure remains same up to the 10 centimeter of H2O. This is because of the tone of the bladder. But when the pressure increases, when the fluid is collected more than the 300 to 400 ml, after that the pressure increases, then the 10 centimeter of H2O. So as the bladder fill up, it adjusts its tone. The large volume of the urine can be accommodated with the minimum alterations in the intravesical pressures. So that will be due to the adaptation process or the law of Laplace, where the pressure is equal to the tension upon the radius. So according to the Laplace law, when the fluid is collected into the bladder, the stretching the wall of bladder occurs that will accommodate the more amount of the fluid. That means the radius increases and the minimal pressure is arises, or the tone of the bladder, it remains same and the pressure decreases, or not, the pressure increases much more. So according to the Laplace law, the pressure is inversely proportional to the radius. So because of the stretchability of the bladder wall, the more amount of the urine can be accommodated without increasing the pressure. Now showing the cystometrogram. So what do you mean by the cystometrograph? That this graph, it showing the relationship between the intravesical pressure changes with the changes in the volume of urine collected into the bladder. So this is the graph. Now we can see the intravesical pressure changes, the relations between the intravesical pressure changes with the volume of the urine. So pressure changes between the intravesical in relation to the volume changes. Now what is the procedure? Now this is the normal cystometrogram. So here the double lumen catheter should be introduced. One where it is where the urine is collected or the fluid is introduced through the lumen of catheter, and the one lumen, it is connected with the cystometrogram, the machines for the recording. So what are the changes? So the recording start with the bladder is completely empty and the pressure is recorded, that is almost 0, or it is a 0, and the graph, and after that at the stepwise the fluid is introduced into the bladder, and whatever the changes can be noted, that will be recorded on the graph. So there are the 3 phases or the 3 parts by which the graph is recorded. So in the part 1, it is the initial rise of the pressure from 0 to 10 centimeter of water when the bladder is empty. Now the bladder is empty where the pressure is 0. And when the start of the filling about 20 to 50 ml to the 100 ml, the pressure is generated from the 0 centimeter of H2O to the 10 centimeter of water. Now the pressure arises. The next part is part 2. It is the plateau part. So even though the volume of the fluid collected, it rises above the 100 ml, up to the 200 to 300 ml of the fluid is collected and extended up to the 300 to 400 of the fluid. So from the 100 to 400 ml of the fluid is collected, still the pressure is remains same from the 0 to 10 centimeter of water. So that is a plateau phase. So where the fluid is about 100 ml, then the same pressure is between the 0 to 10 centimeter of water, and the fluid is increases up to the 300 to 400 ml of urine, and still the pressure is remains same between the 0 to 10 centimeter of water. So that is a plateau phase. So this is because of the adaptations. So more than that, if the fluid is collected, and that is, then the pressure changes occurs. So now here you can see that this is the basal regions where the fluid is almost 0, where the pressure is generated. It is up to the 10 centimeter of water. Now the fluid is collected 100, 200. Still the pressure is remain same up to the 300 ml of the water. So this is the plateau phase where the fluid is collected from the 100 to the 300 ml of the water till the pressure is remain same. So that is a plateau phase. But beyond the 400 ml, after that the pressure is increases up to 30 to 40 millimeter of water. So this that will explain why it is the plateau phase. And that is because of the law of Laplace, or the adaptation phenomenon of the adaptation characteristic of the bladder wall. So that is, the detrusal muscle have the characteristic to the stretching the wall of bladder, and that will accommodate the more amount of the urine. So here from the 100 to 300 to 400 ml of the urine is collected, still the bladder wall is stretched, and it can accommodate the maximum quantity of the fluid, and that the pressure is remains same. So that's why the pressure is inversely proportional to the radius. So according to that, according to the law of Laplace, the urine can be accommodated into the bladder due to the characteristic of stretchability of the wall of bladder. So beyond the 400 ml, after that the pressure is increases up to the 30 to 40 mm of Hg. So this is the third phase. So now here we see the figure. Now this is the figure showing how the bladder responding when the fluid is or the urine is collected into the bladder. So what happened when the this is the basic nerve supply. Here this is the pelvic nerve. When the wall of the bladder is stretched through the pelvic nerve, that is the parasympathetic supply, parasympathetic nerve fibers through the pelvic nerve, it is goes to the sacral segment of the spinal cord. From the sacral segment of the spinal cord through the thoracolumbar, or the thoracic region of the spinal cord, and that sensation goes to the higher centers. Now this is the sequence that will be coming back signals through the hypogastric nerve. So that will be a sympathetic supply, and this hypogastric nerve that will be send the signal to the bladder. Now what is the role of the hypogastric nerve? So here the hypogastric nerve, it causes the relaxation of the detrusal muscles, and it inhibit the process of micturition. So that is due to the relaxations of the wall of bladder and the contractions of the internal sphincters, and it causes the inhibitions of the micturations. So here the role of the hypogastric nerve. But what happened when the fluid is filled into the bladder, that is the wall of the bladder is stretched, and that stretch signals are transmitted by the parasympathetic pelvic nerve to the sacral segment of the spinal cord and coming back through the same pelvic nerve to the bladder. But there are the two conditions where what happens when the bladder is empty and what happens when the bladder is filled. So if the bladder is empty, then the micturition process is not occur. So when the bladder is empty or the less amount of the fluid is filled into the bladder, the slow volume or the slow signals are transmitted through the pelvic nerve to the sacral segment of the spinal cord. Now these signals are transmitted up to the thoracic region of the spinal cord. Now here the signals goes that stimulate the hypogastric nerves, and this hypogastric nerves that will act on the bladder. Now here you can see in the bladder there are the different receptors are there. So on the wall of the bladder there are the two types of the receptors, are the muscarinic receptors, M3 receptors, and the adrenergic, beta adrenergic receptors are there. In the internal sphincters there are the alpha adrenergic receptors, and on the external sphincters there is a nicotinic receptors. So there are four different types of the receptors are located in the bladder wall. In the bladder wall there is a muscarinic receptors and the beta 3 adrenergic receptors. In the internal sphincters there is a alpha adrenergic receptors, and into the external sphincters there is a nicotinic receptors. So during this different types of the receptors are stimulated according to the nerve signals are received. So from the pelvic nerve, when the bladder is empty, the slow signals are transmitted through the pelvic nerve to the sacral segment of spinal cord and into the thoracic regions where the hypogastric nerves are stimulated, and that will carry the sensations that will act on the muscarinic receptors and the alpha 3 adrenergic receptors on the bladder wall, and that inhibit that receptor, so it will causes the relaxations of the detrusal muscles and the contractions of the internal sphincters. So that will inhibit the process of micturations. So the role of a hypogastric nerve, that to prevent the micturations, or that will be occurs when the bladder is empty or the less of the urine is collected into the bladder. So what happens when the bladder is empty? The role of hypogastric nerve to prevent the micturition reflex or to prevent the process of micturations. Now what happens when the bladder is filled? So in case when the bladder is filled, the urine is collected, the wall of bladder is stretched, that will passes the impulses by the parasympathetic nerve, pelvic nerve, and that again that will send impulses via the hypogastric nerve to the higher centers. From the higher centers it will carry the impulses through the same sacral segment of the spinal cord, and from the sacral segment of the spinal cord the somatic nerve, that is the pudendal nerve, it will supply to the external sphincters, and that will causes the inhibitions of the external sphincters. And when the pelvic nerve goes to the sacral segment of spinal cord, that will carries the sensory impulses, and coming back the motor fibers are carried by the same pelvic nerve from the sacral segment of the spinal cord, and it causes the contractions of the bladder. When the bladder is contract, and then from here through the pudendal nerve it causes the inhibitions of the external sphincter. So it causes the process of micturations. So this is whole the process, what happens when the bladder is empty and what happens when the bladder is filled. So now the micturation reflex. So here you can see the process of micturition begins when the bladder is filled with the urine. About 300 to 400 ml of the urine is collected, and then the micturition reflex is initiated. So when the bladder is empty, through the hypogastric nerve, the reflex is inhibited. But when about 300 to 400 ml of the urine is collected, and the process of micturition reflex is started. So what happens when the fluid is collected? The wall of the bladder is stretched. Now the stretching of the wall of the bladder by the statoroidal muscles are stretched. Here the signals are transmitted through the pelvic nerve to the sacral segment of the spinal cord and S2-3 of the sacral segment of the spinal cord, and that will carry again back signal via the hypogastric nerve to again back to the neck and the trigone of the bladder. So back signals are transmitted via hypogastric nerve. So why it is that? Because when from the sacral segment to the spinal cord to the thoracic regions, where it gives the information to the hypogastric nerve, where that it inhibits the hypogastric nerve. So that signals are transmitted to the higher centers, and from the higher centers it gives back signals to the hypogastric nerve, that it will inhibit the hypogastric nerve to prevent the relaxations of the detrusal muscles. Because now here it will give informations about when the bladder is completely filled. So that will give the inhibited signals to the hypogastric nerve. So it prevent the relaxations of the bladder wall. So ultimately the process now via to inhibitions of the hypogastric nerve, and the same signals through the pelvic nerve, that is the motor signals are carried by the same pelvic nerve to the neck and the trigone of the bladder, and that will causes the contractions of the bladder. So this is the how the stretching the wall of bladder and the contraction of the bladder occurs. So when the stretch signals are transmitted through the pelvic nerve via the hypogastric inhibitions, and the same signals are transmitted by the pelvic nerve, that is the motor signals are carried to the trigone and the neck of the bladder, it causes the contractions of the bladder wall. And from here the internal sphincter is relaxed and the pudendal nerve. So here the impulses from the sacral to the thoracic to the higher centers are impulses that goes, and it carries the facilitated signals from the higher centers to the sacral segment of the spinal cords, and from there that carries the same sacral segment of the spinal cord, where the pudendal nerve that will give the signal to the external sphincters, and it causes the external sphincters are relaxed, contractions of the bladder wall occurs, and it causes the micturations. So this is all process how the micturation reflex is generated. So the sensory signals passes through the pelvic nerve, that is we have already seen. Now what happens, that is a process, whole process, it is the self-regenerative process. So what do you mean by the self-regenerative process? So once the fluid is collected, about 300 to 400 ml of the fluid is collected, the micturation reflex is started. And this causes the same pelvic motor, from the sensory to the motor impulses are carried to the bladder. It causes the contractions of the bladder wall. But the bladder is not completely filled, and because of that the bladder is come back to the normal positions. Again when the fluid is filled, again causes the stretching the wall of bladder, again send impulses from the pelvic nerve to the sacral segment of the spinal cord, and coming back the motor signal from the same pelvic nerve to the bladder, and that will causes the contraction of the bladder, and again the bladder is coming back to the normal position. So that is known as the self-regenerative mechanism. Self-regenerative mechanism that is important to fill up the bladder properly up to the maturation, urge to maturation occurs, till the self-regenerative processes occurs. Now this process continues again and again up to the process of self-regenerative. It has become fatigue, and the maturation reflex becomes stronger, and after that the self-regenerative processes stop, and then the process of maturation occurs. So this cycle is repeated again and again till the strong degree of the contraction occurs, and this reflexes fatigue, and the regenerative cycle ceases, and then the maturation occurs. So once the maturation reflex becomes powerful enough, this reflex, the self-regenerative process stops, and then the maturation occurs. Control of maturations. So as we see, the maturation is purely the spinal cord reflex, but it also controlled by the higher centers. So the higher center, it is from the cerebral cortex, where the strong facilitatory and the inhibitory signals are carried from the higher center to the spinal cord and the bladder wall. So these are the strong facilitatory and the inhibitory centers into the brain. Now this higher center, it is almost constantly give the inhibitory signals to the bladder, and it prevent the maturation reflex. So there are centers, they are the pontine maturation centers. So pontine, suprapontine and the cerebral cortex, they are the three maturation centers from where it will receive the inhibitory and the facilitatory signals. So from the pontine maturation center, it gives the descending signals, descending fiber to the reticulospinal tract, and it has a role to exert the control over the sacral maturation center and the sympathetic center. So it has a role to control the sacral maturation center. That means that it control the contractions and the emptying of the bladder. So how it has a role to coordinate the activity of the contractions of the bladder and the relaxation of the sphincter. So this coordination, it is carried by the pontine maturation center. So the bladder, the contractions of the detrusal muscles and the relaxations of the internal sphincters, and it has the role to the maturation process. So this synergic mechanism, coordinating mechanism of the contractions of the detrusal muscles and the relaxation of the internal sphincters, and that will carry the process of maturation. So this will be controlled by the pontine maturation centers. So any lesions in this center, it will causes the dyssynergia or the incoordinations of this contractions and the relaxation process, and the maturation cannot occur or it will be disturbed. The suprapontine centers, so which relay their effect to the sacral centers via the pontine maturation centers, and this region, it is the cerebral cortex. So cerebral cortex, it inhibits the detrusal motor area, it located at the medial frontal lobe. So here it is also inhibit the detrusal motor area. So it prevent the contractions of bladder and inhibit the process of maturations. The basal ganglia, it inhibits the sacral maturation center. So here again, all these centers have the role into the pelvic parasympathetic, the role on the sensory and the motor supply via the pelvic nerve. So most of the higher centers, they act on the pelvic nerve and to control the maturation. So here it inhibits the sacral maturation center. So in case of the Parkinson's disease, where this control is lost, where the poor detrusal muscle activity occurs. In case of the limbic system, it excites the sacral maturation center. So it has the anatomical basis for the effect of micturations by the emotions. So it has the role, the emotions during the voiding. Even if the micturition reflex occurs, still the higher centers can keep it inhibited by causing tonic contractions of the external sphincters until the convenient time is present. So from the higher centers, it has almost all the time it will send the inhibitory signals on the bladder, on the micturition reflex. So from the higher center, it will all the time it causes the inhibitions for the process of micturations, and the unfavorable environment is there. It will send the inhibitory impulses, and they can send the in the favorable conditions, this kind of facilitatory impulses, and it causes the voiding of the urine. So other than this, all the factors, there's some minor role of the muscles. They are the perineal and the abdominal muscles. So at the onset of micturition, levator, ani, perineal muscles are relaxed, and it decreases the urethral resistance, and it causes the process of micturations. And if you give the pressure to the intra-abdominal muscles, so abdominal muscles and the diaphragms are contract, and that will facilitate the flow of urine. So if you give the pressure over the abdominal muscles and the diaphragm, that descends, and that will facilitate the flow of urine. So this is whole the process, how the process of micturition occurs. So what is the composition of the urine? So when the urine is flow, it is coming out from the bladder. So what will be the compositions? So in the normal urine, it contains some ions, that is the sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, uric acid, urea, creatinine, some drugs. If the persons are taking, that will be excreted in the urine, or some toxins are there. So that is the normal compositions of the urine. So that is presence in the normal urine. But what the abnormal things, if it is present into the urine, or it may not be, it is not present into the urine, they are the glucose, protein, ketone bodies, bilirubin, RBCs and WBCs. So these things are not present, these substances are not present in the normal urine. But if it is present, in which condition these things are present? So the glucose are present in case glucose is completely absorbed by the proximal tubules, so it is not present normally in the urine. But in case of the diabetes, the glucose presence in the urine, it causes the glycosuria. Protein. So protein, it is also not present normally, but in case of the severe exercise, increase the blood pressure, pregnant lady, that in case the hypertensions, the blood pressure increase, that causes the protein presence in the urine. Ketone bodies, it is also not present, but in case of the uncontrolled diabetes mellitus and the starvations, ketone bodies are present in the urine. Bilirubin. Bilirubin, it is normally 0.1 milligram, but if it is increased, in case of the different types of the jaundice, where the obstructive jaundice, the hemolytic jaundice, the different types of the liver disease, the cirrhosis of liver, and the hemolytic or the obstructive jaundice. So different, the conjugated or the unconjugated bilirubins are present in the urine. RBCs. So RBCs are also not present normally, but in case such a disease like the carcinoma, some stones are there, some trauma to the bladder, or the stones are present in any part of the route of the urine flow, where that causes the hematuria, where the RBCs are present. In case of also the cystitis, pyelonephritis, where the RBCs are present in the urine. And the WBCs or the cast are present. White blood cells in case of the urinary tract infections, WBCs are present in the urine. In such cases, the hemoglobin cast or the hemoglobin crystals are present in such a hemolytic anemia or the mismatched blood transfusions. So these are the abnormal things can be present in the urine, and what are the normal things were present into the urine. Now the applied atonic bladder. So the atonic bladder, that means it is due to the distractions of the sensory fibers from the bladder leads to the atonic bladder. So here there is a distractions of the sensory fibers. So sensory fibers, that means the stretch signals through the pelvic nerves carried to the spinal cord. These are the sensory fibers. So when the bladder is stretched, the sensory impulses from the parasympathetic pelvic nerve to the spinal cord, it carries, and coming back signal through the same spinal parasympathetic pelvic nerve, it causes the contraction of the bladder. So here the motor fibers are normal, but the distractions of the sensory nerve fibers. That means the bladder feeling, the stretch signals cannot carry to the sacral spinal cord. So there is what happened, the stretching occurs, but the bladder contractions is not occurs. So bladder is continuously filled, but it cannot be able to empty. So ultimately the bladder is overflow and continuous start dribbling of the urine, or the incontinence of the urine occurs. So causes of the atonic bladder, where in case of the syphilis, it causes the constrictive fibrosis around the dorsal nerve root. So dorsal nerve root, where this syphilis occurs, so it causes the fibrosis of this nerve root, so it will not it causes the sensory fibers are destroyed. And the crushing injury to the spinal cord, that is also damage to the sensory nerve root. Automatic bladder, so here the spinal cord injury occurs, or the spinal shock, where the damage occurs above the sacral segment of the spinal cord. So here the sacral segment is intact, where the sensory and the motor signals are completely normal, but the facilitatory and the inhibitory centers, at the higher centers, they are damaged. So that will, the facilitatory and the inhibitory signals cannot received from the higher centers. So after the recovery from the spinal shock, that signals can be normal, but due to the damage to the higher centers, that facilitatory and the inhibitory signals are lost. So bladder is automatically full and automatically emptied. So that signals are not carried from the higher center. So bladder is automatically filled up and it becomes automatically empty. Uninhibited neurogenic bladders. So neurogenic bladders, where the frequent and relatively uncontrollable micturition occurs, and this condition occurs due to the partial damage in the spinal cord or the brain stem. So with the interruptions of the most of the inhibitory signals. So what happened, where the most of the inhibitory control occurs by the brain higher centers. So here the inhibitory signals are mostly affected. So its capacity is reduced and its wall become hypertrophied. So due to the overstretching of the bladder wall, its nutrition is affected, and it is due to the nutrition affected, the wall is more prone to the infections, and the cystitis may occur. So now what happened to the transactions of the sympathetic supply? So the immediate effect is the relaxations of ureteric reflexes and the trigone and the internal sphincter. So after complete denervation of due to the damage or the sections of the sympathetic supply, this ejaculation process is affected. So it cannot, the main process is the ejaculation is already, it is affected, it does not occur, so it may lead to the sterility. And in the later stage, internal sphincters may recover and it closes completely. And after that, the initial and incontinent period of frequency of micturations and the bladder function is re-established after in a normal way. And the effect of obstructions. So what is the obstructions? When the anatomically obstructions occurs due to some urethral prostate enlargement or the urethral strictures, and that causes the obstructions to the further flow of the urine. And the functional dearrangement where the atonic sphincter causes the weak detrusal muscle. So the detrusal muscles are not able to contract, and again there is due to the not contractions of the detrusal muscle, the further process of micturition not occurs, and again it causes the retention of urine. So this is all about the physiology of micturations. Thank you.